Hello, my name is Kayla and welcome to my YouTube channel. You're here because you obviously read the video title. I have ulcerative colitis and I was diagnosed in May of 2020. It's been a long battle. I was 16 when I first started having symptoms, and now I'm 19. So it's been a long 7, 6, 7, 6 math numbers 2-3 years. It's been a hot minute that I've been battling with this chronic illness. And my goal just for this channel is to serve as a resource to help people with IBD, with ulcerative colitis, my words, and to hopefully answer any questions, and just I'll also use this as a healing platform for myself. It's not really about views or ads or anything for me at this point. I just honestly need an outlet. A lot of things in my life has been disrupted due to my illness, and just the effect that it's had on my physical, my mental, my emotional has been a whirlwind for these past, it specifically got really bad for the last 6 months of my life. So overall, I just want to use this channel as a resource and just as a space for people with IBD or wondering about IBD to talk and just figure out information from each other, because again, this is a chronic illness. They don't know how it starts and there's really no cure. So a lot of times we're learning different tips and tricks from the community that we've built online and in virtual spaces, sometimes even better than doctors that some of us have had. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video.
I gotta tell you something I could do.
I have notes here because I want to give you guys the most information as possible. And it's been a lot. And I want to make sure that I'm remembering everything, because everything's scattered and everything has happened like bam, 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 bam. So sometimes it's really, really hard to remember everything. So if I pick up my notebook, if I'm looking down, that's why. Yeah. So like I said before, my name is Kayla and I have ulcerative colitis. I was diagnosed in May 2020, like a couple months into the pandemic. That was my junior year of high school. My symptoms started around September of that time. I noticed that when I would eat, I would my stomach would feel really bubbly, and I'd have to go, within 15 minutes of eating, I'd have to go right to the bathroom. And it would just come out. At this point, I was still having formed stools, but they were coming out right after I ate. And then after a while, I started noticing there was blood in my stools. And at first I thought maybe this is I know that sometimes with young women and their menstrual cycles, things are irregular. Sometimes blood can come out in their stools. And I really wasn't paying attention to the way everything was going out. I was kind of like, oh, there's blood. I wiped, there's blood. There must be something going on with my period. So for a while, I kind of for a good 2 weeks after I started noticing the blood, I thought it was something going on with my cycle, until I actually one day I paid attention and I was like, wait, I'm not wearing a pad and there's no blood in my panties, so where is this blood coming from? And during this time, the pandemic started happening. So schools were shut down, and then for me specifically, doctors, they weren't taking new patients for a hot minute when the pandemic started. So it was really, really hard for me to find a GI doctor in my area. And a GI doctor is I'm not going to even try to pronounce it. It's a gastro doctor. It's a doctor that specializes in all the gut and digestive system stuff. So to kind of backtrack, this is pre-diagnosis. And when my stomach was hurting after meals, I was having cramping, I was having bloating. My stomach was really, really bloated. I was having really bad chronic fatigue. When I was at school my junior year, I was working myself to the bone. I was running back and forth between different rehearsals, and I would come home and just sleep. I was so tired that I couldn't even try to make myself do any of my AP homework the nights that I came home. I would just go to sleep and then wake up every morning like an hour earlier and like do my homework after I finished getting dressed or was doing my homework on the car rides to school. It was a long process. So this is like September all the way up until around March of 2020. This is September 2019 all the way up until around March of 2020. And I started losing weight. I was already pretty small. I don't think I've ever weighed more than around 116 at that time, but I was losing weight because I was starting, the cramping was getting so bad and the blood in my stools was increasing so much that my appetite was just completely ruined. I knew that if I ate and something touched my stomach and the inside, I would get queasy, I would start cramping, and that just really didn't promote me to eat a lot of food during that time. So it was pretty rough. So after I finally, my mom, because I was still underage, so my mom finally found a gastro doctor. I ended up having to go to, I was 16, so by the grace of the gods above, I was able to get in with an adult GI doctor. And once I now that I look back on it, explaining to her my symptoms, it's like she's definitely has some kind of inflammation or ulcers or something going on down there. So I was definitely in the right place when I reached out to that specialist. But I had a colonoscopy in May, and then when she went in, she was like, well, your colon is 2/3 inflamed. There's definitely a lot of inflammation going on in there. We took some biopsies, which is basically when they kind of snatch a little piece out to do some testing. She was like, you either have Crohn's or you have ulcerative colitis, but I'm pretty sure it's ulcerative colitis. And then probably about 3 days later, she called us back and she was like, yeah, you definitely have ulcerative colitis. So just to backtrack, ulcerative colitis is under a broad, the disease is called irritable bowel disease, and there's two main types, which is Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis mainly just affects your large intestine, which is your colon, but Crohn's can affect your entire GI tract, so basically everything. I have ulcerative colitis. So kind of moving forward, after my diagnosis, I was put on iron pills because I was extremely anemic from losing so much blood. I was taking mesalamine, which is like an anti-inflammatory medicine, and I was put on prednisone, which is a steroid. But after taking the iron pills, I noticed they were too strong on my stomach for the amount of inflammation that I was having, and it made me extremely constipated, and it made me feel worse. With the mesalamine, I was having negative side effects as far as headaches, but according to my GI doctor, the side effects, I should stick through the side effects because basically I should put up with the side effects because the benefits of this medicine working outweighed. I wasn't having any life-threatening side effects, so I should wait it out and just continue taking it. So I kept taking it. And then I was put on 40 milligrams of prednisone. And I started that basically a couple of weeks after I started mesalamine, because we noticed that the mesalamine wasn't working as fast as she wanted it to work. And I was also put on a low fiber diet. So everything now, this is probably fast forward to around June. So I was diagnosed in May, and then basically the medications and everything started happening pretty quickly after I was diagnosed. But around June, I mean, it honestly, with everything, that little medicine combination that I was on, eating low fiber foods, it honestly seemed like I was getting better. The bleeding stopped. I gained weight. I would still get bloated every now and then, but I think for a female, bloatedness is not something that's abnormal. So this is rolling around to June of 2020. I got a job. I got my learner's permit. I started working on like my small business. This is my first small business during this time. This was young and lit. And like everything seemed that it was moving forward. I was working with like Instagram influencers, getting them to promote my products. I was like really like growing our social media, and just everything just seemed like it was finally like easing out. I was like, okay, I'm still working a lot because I love to like work a lot and just have my brain into so many different things, but I'm not sick right now. I'm not sick. And that was great. Like I felt so good. But with prednisone, you cannot be on that for a long period of time. So my doctor, which a lot of GI doctors will tell you, you have to start I don't want to get into like the details of all the medications because I am going to do a video on like individually on all the medications that I've been on so far. But to kind of sum it up, you can't just completely abruptly stop prednisone. You have to be tapered off of it. And typically you can do between 5 and 10 milligram tapers, but for people that are really sick or on them for a prolonged period of time, you usually do a slow taper, which is again between 10 and 5 milligrams. It depends on the doctor. But I started on a taper of prednisone, and when I got down to around 20 and 30 milligrams, my symptoms came back like rapidly within days. I was bleeding again. I was at work, and I worked at Journeys in the mall. So and this is during the pandemic, so they took out most of the chairs at the store. So there really wasn't anywhere to sit down. I was constantly on my feet all day. I was cramping. And when you're in the mall, like eating food in the mall, and just having my stomach like start to react to the foods that I was eating for lunch and things like that at work, it was miserable. I would like feel super lightheaded. And then working at a shoe store, you have to climb on top of the ladders to get the shoes. And I honestly always so concerned when I had to go up there because I never knew when I was going to get a cramp or my stomach would start hurting, and I just really didn't want to fall. So in between and this kind of went on for a while. She really didn't. She was like basically we were continuing the taper. Then she told me to stop. So I stopped her, and I want to say I stopped around 20. When I started noticing the symptoms returning is when she told me to stop. So this was somewhere around 20 and 30 milligrams. And she also ordered, we figured that the steroid, since I'm tapering on the steroids and my symptoms came back, and so far the mesalamine hasn't been helping, then we need to try biologics. I'm going to put a little blurb in here about biologics because, again, it's a lot to explain. And I am going to go and make a more detailed video about biologics and the ones that I've been on, because I've been on a couple. I've been on 3. I've been on Entyvio, I've been on Humira, and now I'm on Stelara. But being that the pandemic had just started, there really wasn't a lot of research about how much the biologics would make you more vulnerable to COVID, because again, with ulcerative colitis, you already, because of the medications that you're on, they weaken your immune system, and because it's an autoimmune disease, your immune system is essentially attacking itself. You're more at risk during the beginning. During the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people with IBD were really scared because we really didn't know how our medications and our condition was going to affect us in the pandemic. But with just the risk and everything of so many unknowns, we decided that Entyvio was probably the best thing to start off with, because it's more basic rather than affecting your entire body. It's more centralized to your gut and affecting what's going on in there with the blood cells and everything in there. Again, it's a lot to explain for one like video, and I'm trying not to cut this up, but I may have to cut it up. But I will go into detail with more about the Entyvio later. But yeah, I had my first dose of Entyvio. This is around August now. So August of 2020, I had my first dose of Entyvio. And even though I had my first dose, and this was through IV infusions. So I had my first dose of Entyvio via IV infusion. And we waited a couple weeks, still waiting. Didn't get better. I was gradually getting worse, and this led up to my first day of my senior year. I was a virtual student. Everyone was virtual during this time. No. Everyone wasn't virtual. My school did hybrid. So it was the first day of my senior year, and I couldn't get out of bed. I was in so much pain. Usually I'm the person that have like my school clothes laid out on the bed, my hair, everything. I can barely sleep the night before the first day of school because I'm just so anxious and so excited about everything. But I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't get dressed. And at this point, I'm pooping bloody stools around more than 8 times, at least 8 times a day. Let's put it that way. And I wake up, I remember this morning, I can like picture it like in my head. I wake up and I go to the bathroom, and the only thing I needed to take my prednisone. And the only thing I'm able to stomach is like 2 crackers, like 2 Ritz crackers. So I put the crackers in my mouth, I drink the water, I take the medicine, and I go to the bathroom, and I'm trying so hard to like push through the pain and all that. And I know like there's really not that much in my stomach, but you still get the extreme urge to go to the bathroom with ulcerative colitis. So I was going to the bathroom, and all of a sudden